Okay, we're live.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to give folks a few seconds to keep filing in as Zoom allows folks in. We're here Sunday afternoon, Selection Sunday, and then we've got our matchup set for our two bowl games coming up here in the next couple of weeks. First up, we've got the Cheez-It Bowl, which will be on Tuesday, December 29th, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It'll be televised on ESPN. It'll be at Camping World Stadium. And it'll feature the number 18 Miami Hurricanes and the number 21 Oklahoma State Cowboys, a couple not too far distant champions of this game in recent years. And we've got Coach Manny Diaz of the Miami joining us for a few minutes. Thanks, Coach, for making some time.
Yeah, Sam. Number one, we're delighted to have the invite to the Cheez-It Bowl. Going back to Orlando, as everyone knows, has been a challenging season for everybody in college football. But to get our guys the reward of, in my mind, going to one of the best bowl destinations of anywhere in the country, and then to be in a great matchup against a team like Oklahoma State, and just what they've always done. Mike Gundy has built a terrific program there in Stillwater. I think it's gonna be a great matchup. I think it's gonna be a great matchup for everybody in the country to watch.
So we'll get to a couple media questions now. For media on the call, if you'd like to ask a question, we ask you to use the raise hand feature in Zoom, and we will call on you. We'll ask you to unmute your camera, and then we will, or unmute your microphone anyway. We won't turn your camera on, and then we just ask you to identify yourself again before you ask. The first question up is from Robert Allen. So Robert, if you will unmute you here in a second, and you ask away.
Yeah, Coach Diaz, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Yeah, Robert Allen with the Oklahoma State Cowboy Radio Network. Obviously, your familiarity with Oklahoma State comes during your time in Austin with Texas, and I've already checked back. You were 2-1 those 3 seasons against Oklahoma State. What do you remember from the matchups with the Cowboys when you were with Texas?
Well, really, what was going on in the Big 12 almost a decade ago, as crazy as that sounds, is almost what's now taken over all of college football. You know, I think coaches like Coach Gundy were on the cutting edge of the spread offenses, the RPO game, certainly all of that, and making life very difficult on defenses. And I think that's now such a part of college football that we almost forget, you know, how it all started. So, you know, great matchups, great skill guys. Seems like Oklahoma State's always got a wide receiver who's all Big 12. This year's no different. And so, you know, obviously it'll be a great challenge for us.
You know, one quick follow-up. You mentioned the hardships in dealing with COVID-19 during this college football season. Oklahoma State announced just before their Baylor game that they did not lose a single starter this year at any point to COVID-19. From a distance, it would seem that Miami handled it pretty well. It seemed like your team got through fairly smoothly.
Robert, we were on a good run, and then it got us in November. You know, to the point where we had to we were shut down for 2 weeks,
Okay.
and it just shows how relentless the virus is. And you know, our medical people, we thought, put in great protocols. And yet this thing can still slip through the cracks. So, you know, hopefully we'll have everybody healthy. I hope both teams can stay healthy so we can have a great game. But again, we are still, you know, we still are testing and hoping every time with our fingers crossed that the results come back negative.
Coach, thank you.
A couple more notes on Miami's Cheez-It Bowl history. This is their 6th appearance in the game. That is the most all-time for any one program. This is the 31st year of the game, dating back to 1990. Miami's also tied for the all-time lead in Cheez-It Bowl wins with 3. They're 3-2. They most recently played in 2016 against West Virginia and won that game 31-14. Coach, our next question is going to come from Ileana Limon Romero from the Orlando Sentinel. Ileana, if you can hop on, or I see Matt Michelle's face. It's somebody from the Orlando Sentinel.
Yeah, hi, Coach. It's Matt Michelle. I wanted to ask, how big was it of an opportunity for you guys to stay in the state of Florida when it came for this bowl game, considering with everything you mentioned with COVID going on? How was it able to be close by here in the state of Florida?
Matt, that's huge. The fact that we can drive to Orlando, which is what we will do. And then the fact that it is a game that will allow fans, about 20% capacity. So our players' families will have another chance to watch them play, which I think is very important. Because it's difficult, you see teams, struggle to keep it together for a bowl game. So our guys are excited to play, and I know playing in our home state is always a big deal. And then there'll be some, Central Florida. Obviously, it's been tough to come watch anybody play this year, and I know we've got, a lot of alumni and a lot of fans in the Central Florida area that'll have a chance to get a ticket, come over to the game, and watch us play in Orlando. So it means a great deal to us to be back in Central Florida.
We've got a next question from Tom D'Angelo of the Palm Beach Post. Tom, you can go ahead when you're ready. Tom, we'll need you to unmute your mic and go ahead when you're ready.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, sorry about that. Hey, Manny. You touched on this, and we've seen a lot of teams on their own just decide for whatever reason that they just did not want to move on, go on and play. Is part of this decision that, number one, I'm assuming you spoke to your players and they want to go, they want to play another game, but also, like you said, a reward because we know what you guys have been through.
Yeah, I mean, our guys, our guys want to finish the season. They want to finish for each other. It's been a long haul, it has, but we have a chance to end it on a podium, which is what you get in a bowl game, and so here we go, and it's going to happen to us fast. I mean, today's already Sunday. We're talking about 9 days, in an hour until kickoff. So it'll be here before we know it, and like I said, we got to get ourselves prepared to have a great week of practice because I think actually 1 week from today is when we go up to Orlando, so it's all going to happen fast.
Can I just ask what your schedule will be when we get on the field? What day will be, Sunday and Monday?
Yeah, we'll start back to work tomorrow. Tomorrow will be our guys will live to be mainly a game prepping day for our staff. We will do a quick practice tomorrow evening. Have 2 good days on Tuesday and Wednesday. Certainly, you've got Christmas Eve and Christmas in the middle week. Christmas, as it works in a game week, is actually a Tuesday practice. And again, here we are again, very similar to Thanksgiving, where you're talking about Christmas. You've got the same type of issues we had during Thanksgiving. Being around family, this is not a college football issue. This is a coronavirus issue all across our country. How much exposure to people can you put yourself through on the holidays? It's the holidays. It's a very, very complex topic with no easy answer, and our guys will have to navigate that as they have navigated everything else this year.
Some of your kids will be able to be with family on Christmas, the ones that are close by?
Certainly, if you're in the area, that opportunity will be there. But again, they've got to make, they and their family have got to make the right decisions to protect not just them, but to protect our entire football program.
Thank you.
Coach, we've got another question from Matt Rochelle, the Sentinel. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, when you look at this matchup with Oklahoma State, what would it mean for your program to get a win over a top 25 team to kind of finish things off, as you mentioned, on a podium?
It's a big deal for us. Miami, this was the site of our last bowl victory, as Sam mentioned at the beginning, back in 2016. And that was the only bowl victory for a decade prior to that. So, we've been trying to build the program step by step, and the part of doing that is you kind of try to accomplish things that have been hard to accomplish here over the past few years. And winning a bowl game is right in that category. And then to beat a team with the quality that Oklahoma State has, will mean a lot as well.
Got another question from Tom D'Angelo. Tom, you can go ahead when you're ready.
No, I'm good. Sorry, I didn't lower my hand.
No problem. If you want to ask a question, remember you can raise your hand and ask, or raise your hand, request to ask a question, and we'll unmute you. Just had a question come in from Jason Elmquist. Jason, if you unmute your mic, you can go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Jason Elmquist of the Stillwater News Press. News came out a couple days ago that Jalen Phillips obviously is opting out and going pro. What do you have along the defensive line to maybe kind of make up those 8 sacks that he had this season?
Well, obviously a guy like Jalen is not going to be easy to replace, right? But you do recruit, you do develop. There are players that do have the ability to step in and make some things happen, whether that's a Jafari Harvey or a Cam Williams, and that's just, look, that's part of what bowl games are right now. It gives it the opportunity for a next man up type situation, and I think those guys will be excited for the challenge.
And then obviously with King, your quarterback, dual threat type of guy, that's something Oklahoma State's defense has traditionally had struggled with. How much do you try to utilize his feet in a game like this against an Oklahoma State defense that has been pretty good against the pass so far this year?
No, they've been impressive this year defensively, but most defenses struggle with dual threat quarterbacks. So there's a reason why those guys are a problem, and Derek's given a lot of people a problem. But again, it comes back to balance. You got to be able to run the football, and you got to be able to complete the passes that are there, because Oklahoma State does like the challenge and get in your face in their pass defense. So I think our offense really has to play well to be able to move the ball on Oklahoma State.
Thanks, Coach.
Got another question from Robert Allen from the Oklahoma State Radio. Robert, go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks, Sam. Coach, did you guys do any study the last week or so with perspective? Because this was a prospective matchup. Have you looked at it a little bit?
Our graduate assistant and quality control coaches were already starting to do some breakdowns. There were a couple of different teams in the Big 12 conference that I had watched last week, but not anything in the real depth that will begin, really starting tonight. So yeah, I mean, just some surface level stuff, but we'll really get into the game planning here in the next 24 hours.
The other thing too, Coach, both teams seem to be pretty good on third downs defensively, and both teams by the end of the season had their head above water in the turnover margin. Talk about that aspect of it, because those are 2 keys in a bowl game.
Of course, turnovers are massive in bowl games. Our offense has done a great job of protecting the football all year. You always do worry when you have a little bit of a layoff, of ball security being an issue. We dealt with that. We had a 3-week layoff between games. Our schedule is kind of weird, we're playing into mid-December, so this doesn't quite have the normal break that you'd have with a normal bowl game, but still, conditioning level is going to matter. Sort of tackling is going to matter, turnovers and special teams. I mean, that's, I've mentioned that before, but I think those things really are telling in bowl games.
Thanks.
Got time for a couple more before we let Coach go. Our next one's from Susan Degnan from the Miami Herald. And Susan, you can unmute and go ahead when you're ready. Susan, you can go ahead and unmute when you're ready.
All right, is that better?
Gotcha now.
You got it? Okay, I thought I did it. Anyway, Manny, you were talking about activities last week that you wanted the guys to get close again and do things together, and I saw something that you had done together. How's that going? And do you feel they're, after last game, how have they rebounded? Do you feel they're invested or engaged with this game, or is it just impossible to tell until game day?
Well, I mean, we'll know more too tomorrow when we really get back to practice, but I think our guys are upset. I think we have a team that's obviously has a bad taste in their mouth from the way that we finished. and they do not think that's representative of who they were the rest of the year. So we did try to mentally sort of reboot the system this past week. You know, there's no telling. I still think it was a positive no matter what. Anytime you can be in service to others, like we did last week feeding Miami, I think that's a big deal. But we got to get back to work, and we need a great week of practice to prepare to win this football game, because it is not going to be easy.
And Manny, the follow was has anybody else other than Jalen opted out of this game? Are we going to find out?
It's 2020, right? I mean, there's always a potential now that we know the destination. So sounds like a lot of them do want to play in it. But like I said, Susan, we'll all kind of find out here together. I suspect in the next 24 hours, hopefully we'll know exactly, who all is in.
As far as De'Eric goes in particular, do you know anything about him if he's playing?
In this game?
Yeah, De'Eric King.
Yeah, I suspect De'Eric will be playing in this game.
Great, thank you.
Coach, we don't have any more hands up, so we'll let you go with that. But we appreciate you making a few minutes this afternoon for us, and thank you, and we'll see you down here in Orlando real soon.
Can't wait, Sam. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Coach. And we will have Coach Gundy logging on here momentarily. We expect him just about 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central, and we'll stand by until then, and you can watch me sit in front of this green screen. We also will have Florida Citrus Sports CEO Steve Hogan and Florida Citrus Sports 2020 President Paul Mears III available at the conclusion of Coach Gundy's time, if anybody has any questions for them regarding the bowl from that perspective. So we'll have them available as well. And if you do intend, there's Coach Gundy, so we'll tell you the rest later. Coach Gundy, how are we doing?
I'm good. How are you?
We're doing great. We've got Coach Mike Gundy here from Oklahoma State. Quick rundown on the Cowboys. This is their second Cheez-It Bowl appearance. They were here for the 2017 game against Virginia Tech, when the game was known at the time as the Camping World Bowl. Oklahoma State actually also appeared in the 1976 Tangerine Bowl, which is now the Verbo Citrus Bowl, and played BYU. Coach, we're happy to have you back. How are you feeling about your bowl destination and the season your team put on?
Well, we're very excited about playing in the Cheez-It Bowl, and Orlando is a great location, and we're excited about getting together as a group and having another week or so of practice and being able to spend some time over Christmas with the families, and then head out and play in a great bowl game against an awesome opponent.
Coach, we've got some media on the call. If you missed the earlier portion and you'd like to ask a question, you use the raise hand function. We'll flag you, and we just ask that you give your name and outlet before you ask. I know you know Robert Allen from Oklahoma State Radio, and he's our first hand up. So Robert, go ahead when you're ready.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you, Mike, about your history here with Miami and with Coach Diaz. I know you faced him 3 times as a head coach when he was the DC at Texas. And then I'm trying to remember, you were on that staff with Pat in '91 that went and played Miami in the Orange Bowl, right?
That's correct.
That wasn't a very good afternoon. So, you can say as little about that as you want.
Well, I can't hardly remember last week, much less what happened in '91.
All right, talk a little bit about what you know about Manny Diaz.
Well, he was in our league for a while, and I know that he spent some time down south at other places. He was in the SEC a while, and then jumped on down at Miami, and I know they were excited with him being from down in that area. And we're excited about playing I don't follow the rankings, but I think Miami's been pretty much a top 10 or some top 15 team all year. And so we've had a great season. We've played in conference play, which it obviously is difficult. And then Tulsa being our first non-conference, who's had a great year. And then Miami being our last non-conference game in the bowl, who's having an awesome year. So we've been able to play some really, really good football teams, and I'm excited about competing against Miami.
One other thing, Mike, you and your staff have been really good at bowl preparation. You've got a great bowl record. This will be different, though. It's compressed. It's not a week at the site. Talk a little bit about bowl time in a pandemic.
Well, we have the guys together for about 3 days of practice when we do our testing, and then we're letting our team go home for 3 days for Christmas. We'll get back together for a day, and then we'll take off and we'll play at the bowl. So this will be more like a traditional week for us, which is about 3 practices. Because we made the decision to let our players go home and spend time with their families over Christmas. We thought that was more important than the extra practice days during this time of year with all the players have dealt with because of the virus.
Thanks.
Coach, we've got a few more questions lined up for you. Next one's from Frank Bonner of the Tulsa World. Frank, if you go ahead and unmute yourself, you can ask away.
Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Doing well. Looking at, where we were at the start of the season, not even knowing if we were going to have a football season, just how encouraging is it to know that this day actually came and you guys are getting ready to play in a bowl game?
I'm a little bit shocked with all that was taking place in the latter part of July. I felt good about the season in April, May, and June. Started to get concerned with everything that was going on across the country in July. And then once we got to the middle of the season and so many teams started having issues with the virus, I started to have some more concerns. But for us to be able to finish the season and now be able to play in a bowl game, I know it's only a one-day trip, but it still gives our players a chance to compete against a very, very good football team. Again, it gives our young players a chance to practice another week. So there's a lot of benefits, and we've certainly come a long way since July. There's no question about that.
Thank you, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, we've got another Tulsa World question on deck. This one's from Garen Emig. You can go ahead and unmute and whenever you're ready.
Okay, thanks. Mike, what you drinking today? Is that a limeade or a malt?
Well, actually a peppermint shake.
Oh, holiday cheer, it sounds like, yeah?
That's exactly right. I
Well
like peppermint.
Well done. Jimmy Johnson came up as soon as the matchup was revealed. That I guess he's the tie that binds the two programs, having coached at both schools. How you in touch with him ever over the years? Any kind of relationship you kept up with Jimmy?
Well, obviously I've kept up with him, but he's way ahead of my time. I haven't really had conversations with Coach Johnson. Again, I've told you guys before, I don't have a lot of conversations with anybody, but I have not really had a relationship with Coach Johnson, never been in the same environment that he was in.
Okay, fair enough. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Remember, if you have a question for Coach Gundy, you can use the raise hand function at the bottom of the screen. Our next one's from Jason Elmquist of the Stillwater News Press. Jason, go ahead and unmute whenever you're ready.
Hey, Mike. Obviously, a lot of time between the last game and this bowl game. But do you know what the status is for Tylen? Do you think he'll be able to play in this one?
I hope so. I haven't had that discussion at this point. Our players are coming back in this evening. We're going to practice a couple days and then give them 3 or 4 days off for Christmas. And I'm hoping that we'll know something by tomorrow on what his situation. I feel like that he's relatively healthy, in my opinion. We'll know a lot more about that tomorrow. And then it's just a matter of whether, he decides to play in the game. These decisions are obviously all based on the individual thought process. But he's competed for us throughout the year. He's been fantastic.
And actually, Miami just had their top sack getter just announced a day or two ago that he's opting out of the bowl game and whatnot. So second straight week or season in a row in the bowl game where you avoid the leading sack guy. But what are those conversations like for you? Obviously, you've had it with probably with Tevin and Chuba of them trying to decide whether it's the right move for them to stick around or to opt out.
Well, I'm not involved in those discussions. They all have discussions with their representatives and their families, and then they let us know what they're doing. Those aren't discussions that, as a coach, that we're involved in.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
You bet.
Got a few more minutes with Coach Gundy. If you have a question, remember you can use the Q&A or the raise hand function, to let us know, and we'll bring your mic on. Coach, I wanted to ask you, your guys seem to have a nose for the ball. I know you're up there nationally in terms of tackles for loss, for sacks. What do you attribute that to? And what can folks in Orlando expect who may not see as much of Oklahoma State football week to week as folks in your part of the country do?
We have a very mature defense with a lot of experience. We feel like we run really well. That's why this game will be interesting. I have seen Miami play some, not a lot, maybe a game and a half. I can't remember, but I know they have tremendous speed, and we run around pretty good on defense. So I would say the majority of that would be because of the speed that we have on the defensive side of the ball.
Coach, we've got another question from Rob Allen from Oklahoma State Radio. Rob, whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Sam. Mike, you're always big too about, guys want to play. Do guys want to play in the bowl game? And I was at a couple of practices last week that were really centered on the younger guys, but it seemed like they had good tempo. It seemed like everybody wanted to be out there. You have a pretty good feel for that right now?
Well, our team made the decision to move forward and play, and we were excited about that. I'm a strong believer in we finish what we start. And so I was happy that the team wanted to stay together and get 3 or 4 more practices to get and then have an opportunity to play in the bowl game. So we'll start back tomorrow with the veteran guys. As I said, we'll be able to get 3 or 4 practices in before we head out to the bowl game. And I can't imagine they won't be excited about getting some quality practice in, especially when they know we're playing a team as good as Miami.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, I also wanted to ask you about your last trip here a few years ago for when you beat Virginia Tech. You had Mason Rudolph and James Washington, a lot of really talented players on the team. Do you anything particular you remember about that trip or that game that stands out?
Well, we had a great week down there. I mean, fabulous living conditions and practice facilities, and just everything in the Orlando area was first class. People took great care of us. Our players had a week of a lifetime, and that's what a lot of fans across the country sometimes don't realize that for us to be able to take our entire travel party, all the family, all the players, most of their families, and be in a bowl location, and the activities and things that we get to do during the week is things that those are the memories that these players will have for the rest of their life. And unfortunately, because of the virus this year, that's changed. But we're very excited about being in the Cheez-It Bowl game. Very excited about who we're playing. Last time we were there, we had a great game against Virginia Tech. So these are memories of a lifetime, and we're going to try to do everything we can for these players to be able to spend some time with their family, but also get ready to play against a very, very good football team and enjoy the bowl game.
Coach, we've got one more question just popped up from Scott Wright. Scott, go ahead when you're ready.
Coach, you kind of answered this, but I mean, how do you make this week special when you don't have the whole week to go spend in Orlando and do some of the fun things that town has to offer?
Well, we're going to practice a couple, 3 days here, and then we're going to let the players go home and spend Christmas with their families. They'll be home for 3 nights. We're going to bring them back and have a practice, and then have a light practice, and then we're going to travel down and play the game. So we made a decision as a staff a couple weeks ago that when we got to this point, we were going to sacrifice the 3 or 4 extra practices to allow our players to be able to be with their families during this time of year. We felt like that would benefit our organization more than the practices based on what we've all been through with the virus this time of year. So we'll be able to practice here, and just spend time with the players around the facility. But there's not much else we can do. Obviously, we can't group a lot of people up. They do get all the bowl gifts and the gear and things like that, which is awesome. We just don't get to spend as much time together in such a great location.
And having the guys going home and being around their families, you obviously got to rely a lot on them to make good decisions.
Yeah, that's part of it. They've been fabulous all year, and they've been very mature. I've already discussed and given you guys my opinion on how fantastic our medical staff was and our players were to be able to play through the season without having any issues with the virus. And so we've asked them to be very careful when they go home, try to stay away from people as much as possible. As much as you want to hug and kiss on everybody, you got to refrain from it right now, just like we all do at the house. And so it's just something we have to deal with right now. It's a decision we made, but our players are very mature, and hopefully they'll be able to handle that. And we get back, we'll get them tested up, and then we'll be able to head down and play in the bowl game.
Thanks, Mike.
You bet.
Coach, we don't have any more questions teed up for you, so we'll give one last call and then let you go. It's certainly looking forward to having you down here, and we'll have after you get off, we'll have for anyone left on the call, Steve Hogan, CEO of Florida Citrus Sports, and Paul Mears, Florida Citrus Sports president. They'll be available for questions as well. So it looks like you are set to go, Coach. Thank you for zooming in with us, and we'll see you down here soon.
And the favorite snack at the Gundy house is Cheez-Its, just so everybody knows. Big snack late at night at the Gundy house. So we're looking forward to a great game. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you in a week or so. Take care.
Thanks, Mike. We'll have them in plenty of supply.
Awesome.
If anybody has any questions, for Steve Hogan, CEO of Florida Citrus Sports, or Paul Mears III, president of Florida Citrus Sports, you can still use the raise hand function to let us know. All right, we got our first. We've got Robert Allen, Oklahoma State Radio. Robert, if you have a question for either Steve or Paul, let us know, and unmute and go ahead.
Yeah, this is for either. And just in case, Sam, you're wondering, I'm trying to be the MVP today, so I'm working with you. Either gentleman, we heard from the coaches how COVID-19, how the pandemic has changed their setups, the way they're going about the bowl. I'm assuming you already have your plan and probably detail that to the teams. What are you going to allow to be done, and what's the preferred schedule for these two teams?
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in there. Thank you so much for the question. We're just so excited to have the opportunity to host these guys and try and give them in the environment we currently live in the best possible memory we can for those going off to the next level or those graduating. We're blessed to have just recently received the GBAC star rating here at Camping World Stadium, which is kind of a gold seal for cleanliness and safety for fans. We'll meet every protocol to allow 20% of our facility to be filled with fans for this year. So hopefully it'll be at least somewhat of an environment for the kids to send them off for their final game. We've spared no expense in the hotel for the team. So we've given them 2 and 3 day schedule options for the most part in a bubble at their property, but national championship style hospitality environments for the guys. They'll have a bit of an opening party, but most of these things are just for them. They're not touching volunteers or engaging with Orlando area folks like they normally would. But we want to make sure that they have as close to a bowl game experience as they could have in this environment. That may even involve a potential trip to, an entertainment asset here locally that they could stay contained without interacting with any folks as well. We have a lot of entertainment options here in Orlando. We can do those safely and rent those out. But we're just now today in communications with the operations teams on campus to talk about the number of nights that they're going to stay, what exactly they would like to do so that we can finalize the preparations that we put in place for this ball game. But we're excited to do as little or as much as the teams can enjoy to enjoy their last game of 2020.
Thank you.
If there are any more questions for Paul Mears or Steve Hogan, you can use the raise hand function and we'll queue you up. Currently, we don't have anybody on deck, so we'll give it a couple more minutes. The last call for Steve and Paul, and otherwise we'll thank everyone for joining us and be on our way to our Verbo Citrus Bowl presser, which we'll have starting at 5 o'clock with Northwestern and Auburn. That's a separate link that was sent out. We'll send it through the SIDs, so if you need that, we can get it to you. We don't have any more questions, so we're gonna get over to the next Zoom call. Steve, Paul, thanks for being here. Thanks everybody for joining us for this call. And we'll look forward on the 29th to hosting number 18 Miami, number 21 Oklahoma State in the Cheez-It Bowl, 5:30 p.m. ESPN Camping World Stadium. We'll see you there.